I guess it's time to feed the schizoids. This is an issue that I have addressed plenty of times before, but perhaps not in its own standalone video, so we're gonna go over how I make videos as a schizoid, or why I make videos as a schizoid, whatever you want to say. There are some bits of stuff floating around in front of me, never mind that. There are some comments that I never got around to answering, and they're all kind of on the same theme, so let's do them all at once. They kind of range from this kind of thing, oh, I refuse to believe that you're schizoid, you've got too much energy, if I was to record that I'd need 3 days off after, which is like, that's a you problem. But anyway, I'll get to that in a moment. And then we've got other things like these guys having an argument. Well, it starts off with, you know, one that's like, oh, I actually want to know, like, what are you getting out of making videos? Is it similar to socializing, or is it more solitary? And then there's this argument going on about whether or not schizoids get lonely. Which, you know, we'll talk about that too in a moment. And then we've got...
Threat.
Oh! I clicked the wrong one! I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump scare you. We got this one. If you're schizoid, then please tell me how you care enough to post this video. Yeah, and this is from someone who's, like, wanting to know. What's my secret? How do I get interested in things? So yeah, let's go through all that. But I'll give you this sort of overview of how I got into YouTube in the first place. Which I've told this story so many times, and it's actually nothing to do with schizoid. It's probably more to do with the dissociation I experienced, which may or may not be related to schizoid. But yeah, so in the past, I mean, I think... Oh, if we go way back, like you consider my trauma, you know, my parents, who are currently busy with my disabled brother, if you hear any noises in the background of me growing up in that sort of environment, probably have a complex subconsciously about being ignored, I don't know. And I think at some point, you know, I mean, this is all background stuff, and I've probably always wanted to document my life in some way. I think I also came across, like when I was really, really, really young, around 7, maybe, I have this vague recollection of, you know, the mentioning of a memoir or people writing about their lives, and me thinking, gee, if I don't start writing this now, I'm going to forget it all. And so, like, that's the very first time I remember keeping any sort of a diary, or at least attempting to, or having the intention to, which of course nothing came of that. But I think also there's this subconscious, and by then I would have had this subconscious thing of, like, you know, sort of being invisible. And then when you consider, like, more existential questions, what's the purpose of life? And I remember later in high school, you know, learning about the ancient Egyptian ideas of, you know, how you kind of live forever. And so, you know, I'm never going to have a biological legacy, at least not directly from me. You know, like, family genes are out there somewhere, but nothing's directly from me. And when you think about the meaning of life from a biological perspective, is just to pass on genes. Survive long enough to pass on your genes and hope that those genes keep passing down the line. That's the basic biology purpose of life, or goal of life, or whatever you want to call it. So that's not an option for me. And I remember at some point coming across the ancient Egyptian ideas of living forever and, I guess, legacy, and they would write their names and their stories in stone. And then sure enough, thousands of years later, we actually know their names, and they're kind of still living away. And so for me, that was a way of dealing with atheism, which I didn't come to very well. I know a lot of atheists feel liberated, but I started to feel like what is the point of all this? Especially, I guess, because I was suffering. You know, what's the point of my suffering? So what's the meaning of life? So there was this kind of documentation need in these kind of weird roundabout, you know, child logic, trying to work out why am I even alive, and that was one of the ways I dealt with it. So that's one part of the puzzle, I think. I'm trying to psychoanalyze myself in real time, by the way, so I may get confused, or maybe I'll change my mind at some point, but I didn't even expect to talk about that, to be honest. I thought we were just going to jump straight to the video part. But also, here's another thing, is I grew up in the 90s, and was still at school in the zeros, during this period of, technological progress, I did not grow up in an era where it was this easy to film myself and to get that video seen by anything. The first memory I have of making a video was with a friend who brought over her dad's camera, which literally had a VHS slotted in. So we filmed it directly onto VHS, and then we could take it out and put it on the VHS player and watch it on the TV, and there was no way for us to edit it. So that's how we did that. And I remember I think in high school we might have had something similar. I don't know if it was, I think it was a VHS, but I don't quite remember, because I remember we had to like watch it on the TV and like write down what numbers, the time codes we wanted digitized so that we could put it onto the editing software at school. So that's my earliest. Those that was a bit later after this original VHS experience, but those were my initial experiences with video. And then you can also see my very first bonsai videos, and you compare the way I talk back then to how I'm able to talk now. And that was me trying to be presenting instead of shy and and if you imagine that's me trying to be out there, what I was like in the rest of my life. Although the first time I ever talked to a camera, it was kind of confronting, because it's I think with the other video projects, I don't think I really had anything much to say, but maybe in that first VHS one, that was so long ago. Actually, if it's the person I'm thinking of, maybe that was high school as well, very early high school. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, early video technology was actually really interesting, because it's I was late enough for camera technology. There were Polaroids, and then there was 1 hour photo, and then gradually digital photos, although they were still pretty crap as I was growing up. Video technology to take those images and they're moving, that was really interesting. And then, I remember editing the video. The rest of my group didn't know how to edit the video, and I was the one who figured it out, so I got to do all the stuff. And the day that someone else came in, deleted all the audio and slapped a music on it, I was like, oh my god, because they'd already made so many mistakes in filming and not listened to me, and I just wasn't the sort of person to speak up at the time. Whatever, anyway, it was good while I had the control over it, and maybe the control is another thing. Anyway, point being, video technology, fascinating. So, combine these two things. There's my need to sort of document my life for these deluded reasons of having some kind of legacy, I guess, or just some record that I existed, so that my existence wasn't just a thing that happens and then disappears, and what was the point of that? I think that's kind of the thing. And then also the fascination with video technology. So I did actually try to keep diaries. The trouble is, with dissociation and with the other version of me, a lot of that ended up in my paper diaries, and I got into this habit of I would write something, come back and read it and be yeah, that's not me, and toss it out. And then another problem I have, I think there's a video the 3 ways my sense of self is messed up or whatever. I think I mentioned in that video as well, as time passes, I sort of start to feel disconnected from past versions of me, never mind, the other version of me, the past versions of me. So even if it wasn't unhinged, other me writing, it would just, anything I wrote, I'd just be reading it later going, gee, I was an idiot last week, wasn't I? And I remember having that feeling as far back as 10 years old, or maybe earlier than that. It's just so I was constantly trying to document my life by hand and then tossing it out. And I think I tried to do some of it online at some point, but the platforms weren't great, and they don't even exist. And I think I only have records of some of that because one of the platforms I used somehow migrated it to Facebook, and I don't even remember how that happened. I just stumbled onto it one day on Facebook, and I'm like, how did Facebook get all this? So I can't even remember how that happened. But yeah, all that's lost. And I don't know if anyone ever read it. And the thing is, so At some point, I think I had quit uni for maybe the second time. And I went out and bought a webcam. Like, I'd heard of YouTube, and I was like, video platform, and people are doing things with webcams, and like, wow, I have money now, I can go and buy a webcam. The video camera I used for my bonsai thing, that was for a school thing, so I was able to get the parents to help buy it, and I just paid a little bit extra to get a better camera than the one they wanted to get me. But I didn't know how to connect it to the computer for the purposes of webcamness. I figured that out later, but all I knew was how to download the mini DV onto my computer. So, yeah, I think I did try and make some videos that way, but it's a bit more time consuming, whereas the webcam you just plug in and go. Anyway, at some point, I can't remember exactly how I got into it, but I'd heard about YouTube. And I just thought, okay, what if I film myself documenting my life? Like, is that a way that I can avoid this thing? Like, if it's a video, I can't exactly scrunch it and toss it out. And I don't remember if there was a reason that the, online blogging wasn't working for me. I think it's something to do with the typing and the effort. And like, even today, I think I'm just better with the social media. Like, if it's my Facebook, I'm able to type stuff. And if it's my diary for my psychology, I'm able to type stuff. But somehow I have a blog on my website, and I just hardly ever post there. Like, there's something about the blog that just doesn't work for me, and I don't know what it is. But I thought, I just made my video. You can see my first video that I ever posted, and I'm kind of awkward and weird and not sure what I'm doing, instead of like looking at myself on camera going like, or some shit, because it was like, cool, I've got this webcam, and I'm kind of just doing it for myself. I had no idea. So, I post my first video, and then the next 3 days, or the next 3 videos at least, I think it was the first 3 days that I was on antidepressants, and I'm out of my mind, and I just filmed that because I'm like I was so agitated. I'm like, I've got to do something, and so I just posted all that. And I don't know at what point I noticed people watching me, but this is back in the early YouTube days where, they did push out your videos to more people, and they did focus on subscribers rather than views and watch time and manipulating attention. So yeah, I got an audience, and it was kind of a weird thing. And I think at some point I realized, like, even if I try and delete all this stuff, someone somewhere has already seen it. So I can never actually properly delete anything I've put out there. And so that actually finally helped me keep some kind of a diary. Now, of course, since then I started doing Facebook, and much, much, much later, like in the past few years, I started writing my diary for my psychologist. And so that's probably taken away some of, I used to post on YouTube twice a day, although this is back when the time limit was like 10 minutes or 11. You could just push it to 11, and then they made it 15 minutes, and now they just let me go, which is probably a mistake. But I was posting like twice a day. I was sort of like addicted to the video, and then and then people are watching, and then people are like, oh, I have depression too, and like watching this helped me, I feel less alone. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not what I was setting out to do, but cool, I guess I will keep going. And yeah, I guess I just kind of had fun with it. And then also that other part of me saw the potential there. OG viewers know what I'm talking about, because that would come up a lot. And yeah, I think that's another thing, is it's that part of me was trying to express itself, and I think I've gotten better at that in other avenues. Plus, it's less of an issue for me now, so you don't really see that happen anymore. Plus, I also don't. The things have happened in my life that make me not want to humor that too much. I don't know if I'll ever talk about that. I haven't even talked about it to my psychologist, so yeah. So that's kind of how I ended up on YouTube. And then I took a long break because I had a jealous ex who couldn't stand me getting the attention. And also, like, life got a bit crazy even after I broke up with him. And it wasn't until I collapsed in my mental health and was like, oh, maybe I'll go back to YouTube. Just get more of this shit off my chest. Because that's the thing, like, once I started YouTubing, it was also an outlet for a lot of the stuff that I just kept inside. And well, I guess we'll get on to some of the questions. So I think, which questions? No, I'll just keep rambling and then I'll go back and see if there's anything I missed with the questions. Um, in terms of like an outlet, like I'm not talking to people. Whoever you are watching, I am not talking to you. I'm talking just to a camera, and then it goes on my screen, and then people happen to watch it, and people think I'm talking to them, but that's not the experience I have. Like I got better at talking to a camera than talking to people for ages. And the way that I appear online is, or at least for a long time, was not how I appeared in person. And for a long time, I felt very strange about the idea that anyone in my real life would ever see one of my videos, because how I was on screen felt so different to how I was in person. And because I have like identity issues, and especially back then when the other version of me kept appearing on camera, I didn't want anyone in real life to see that. So, yeah, it was like on the very rare occasions that anyone mentioned having watched my videos, I did feel very awkward about it, because that's not what I wanted to happen. I was just trying to do it for myself. But it had to go on the internet, because once things are on the internet, they're never really completely gone. Even if you can't find some of my old videos that I deleted, you can't find them anywhere on the internet. But they still exist in other people's heads, so I can never truly delete them all. Yeah. But yeah, like these days, I've gotten better at talking to people. And I think the way that I talk on YouTube has kind of, I mean, the way I talk on YouTube has changed a lot over time as well. But also I've been able to take more of that and put it into real life. So it's less of an issue if people see it now. Plus I'm also like slightly less unhinged. Or I'm the same level of unhinged in real life these days, I think. I don't know. Anyone who sees me in real life can probably tell me if... Does anyone see me in real life at that level? Not really, though. Unless I'm, like, intentionally out there in the art scene trying to stir things up. Anyway, why was I going on that rant? I don't know. I keep going off track. But no, okay. So I'm making videos for myself, and it's just a coincidence that other people watch it. And then people leave comments, and you might be like, isn't that a social thing? But it's like, as I've said in previous videos, it kind of feels like a video game. Especially because, I'm not seeing anyone in video. All I'm seeing is your text. And so as far as I know, you're just NPCs with, like, these text prompts that come up. And sometimes it's like this, where it's a thing for a video, and then other times it's just an amusing thing, or maybe if I'm in like a troublemaking mood, I might like reply and have an online fight, and it's just like, depending on the game that I want to play. In the past, I would try and answer every single comment. I don't these days, because some comments are just exhausting and not worth my time, or maybe I'm distracted, or I just can't be bothered. But yeah, in the past, I did try and answer every single one, and it was kind of like a quest list. So yeah, I don't tend to imagine the people behind the comments. I mean, there's some that I know now, but generally they're like characters. So Mad Simple is a character. Drunk Puppy is a character. I don't know anything about them in real life. But I see their things come up, and they have, like, lore attached to them as far as my brain is concerned. Mad Simple is a North Korean who likes feet or something and owes me 10 million US dollars. And then Drunk Puppy is just cute and drunk and a puppy. But also, Drunk Puppy, I think the username is something like Johnny's Salvation, and like way back, there was a user, what was it? John Meets F. Kennedy? And I have my own internal lore, like, what if John Meets F. Kennedy became Drunk Puppy? Johnny's Salvation. They both start with John. So I have my own little stories about you guys, regardless of what you think. Yeah, so it's kind of like a game. So like we've got all this psychological background, but then what am I getting out of it now? It's kind of a game, and so I put my stuff out there, and then I get these little quests back and do what I like with them. Yeah, I think like sometimes I'm a little bit better at you know, getting the reality to meet the game, but no, not really. Anyway, let's go and check what have I missed with these. Oh yeah, this one. So I refuse to believe you're schizoid. Way too much energy. If I was to record that, I would need 3 days off after. This is hilarious to me because this person probably only watched like one of my things, or I've gone for long periods of having no energy to do anything, and this person has no idea how much time I spend in bed. Today, today is the 9th of April, and I was about to film the video about the book that I finished, Metro 2030. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got that deleting thing on. And I just suddenly had to lie down. And half an hour into my nap, I got a spam call that woke me up. And usually when my sleep is interrupted and I will be startled, I'll get palpitations. And once I get palpitations, that's kind of game over for me in naps. But I was so tired, I don't know why, that I was able to get back to sleep for at least half an hour. And then even after that, like waking up being like, oh, and this is in the middle of the day, mind you. So, you know, like I get super exhausted. Do you think that just because I make a video that I'm functional? But also, like, this is a you problem. There is nothing in the schizoid diagnostic that is like, you cannot have any energy ever. Where is my little file? Let me just go and... I did save the schizoid stuff somewhere. Schizoid things. What is the criteria? And you only need, in the criteria, where does it say? 4 or more of the following. Neither desires nor enjoys close relationships, including being part of a family. Almost always chooses solitary activities. Little, if any, interest in sexual experiences with another person. Takes pleasure in few, if any, activities. Lacks close friends or confidence other than first-degree relatives. Appears indifferent to praise or criticism of others. Shows emotional coldness, detachment, or flattened affectivity. And it's got nothing to do with, like, other conditions. Nothing about that says no energy at all. This is more of a depression thing, and, like, I have depression, and when my depression flares up, yeah, I have no energy. Also, when the migraines flare up, I have no energy. This is nothing to do with schizoid. This is a you problem, not a me problem. And if I was to record that, I would need 3 days off after. We all have different things that tire us out. I generally find existence tiring. Like, I don't understand people who can wake up in the morning and be ready to go and energized and recharged. I'm just like, I wake up and I'm like, oh, here we go again. But the dog expects a walk, so I have to get up. Anyway, yeah, and also they have no idea, like, what happens after I film the video. Like, I've managed to get enough energy to film the video. I mean, why do you think I disappear for long periods of time and don't even post? Oh my god. This is like a stupid comment. I'm sorry. I think you need to reassess just your assumptions. And like, even with the schizoid criteria, like the idea that we're all the same, which brings me to this. So before I get to the original commenter, you know, these guys arguing over whether schizoids get lonely. Schizoids can get lonely. I mean, you know, like, it's mostly, like, the DSM criteria is mostly about, you know, not being social. But it doesn't say anything about you absolutely can't be lonely ever. And you got to consider that, like, it's criteria for a disorder, but it's only 4 out of, how many is it? Is it 7? 4 out of 7 things you need to have, which recognizes that there's variation and recognizes the fact that it's just a label. I don't personally experience loneliness. I think when I was younger, like really young, I did, and that's probably why I got interested in things like Pokemon and Digimon, where you have your own little posse of non-human friends. Yeah, no, I haven't really felt any of that for a long time. I think like getting a dog way back, maybe the first dog is probably the solution to that. And I don't, like, you know, when it comes to humans, here comes all the noise, by the way. Can you hear that? We'll just let them go. chaos I live in. Anyway, no, schizoids, like, you know, you can get lonely. It's just like most schizoids at least don't admit to being lonely, because this is another thing. Like, some of the criteria, and I know I'm not putting the criteria on screen, I can't be bothered to set it up, but like, you know, like, you know, some of it is like appears indifference to praise and criticism, shows emotional coldness, detachment, or flattened affectivity. But showing and appearing, that's all external stuff. It doesn't tell you necessarily about what's going on internally. You know, like, there's wiggle room for exceptions, and also for schizoids to be in denial. And I know schizoids don't like being told they're in denial, but I think a lot of us are or have been in the past. And that's something, like, you know, with mental illnesses, you often don't know the full extent of how mentally ill you are. I have definitely been startled by what I found, you know, especially through official channels, like how mentally ill I'm considered to be. That took me by surprise. But anyway, you know, there's a, like... Sure, most schizoids don't admit to being lonely, but some schizoids can get lonely. So guys, calm down and stop, like, over-the-top gatekeeping, because in the end, schizoid is just a label. It's not something you have to be, it's not something you have to conform to, it's just a label to describe your experiences, describe your distress, or describe the, if you're not distressed by it, describe the impairments to your functioning in society. And yeah, society is fucked, but you kind of have to deal with the world that you're given, and if you can't function in it, you can't function in it. So, you know, it's a way to label that so that people can attempt to help you or study you, so to maybe help other people. Like, it's... I think some people take mental illness labels and turn it into their entire identity and turn it into their club and feel like they now have to perform it and be like perfectly this label. And it's like, no guys, you can do whatever you want, whatever you feel. And if society is going to label you with this thing, so be it. Who cares? You know, there's so many things where people try and escape labels too. It's sort of, sometimes it's like, no, you are, like, you know, with female-fronted metal bands, there are some female-fronted metal bands who hate being called female-fronted, but if you have a female singer, guess what you are? I don't care if that's not your main focus, it's just a fact. You are female-fronted. Get over it. Anyway, a bit of a rant. Let's get back to the top one. I'm curious about something. Considering you have schizoid personality disorder, what do you get out of making videos? Is making videos similar to socializing to you, or is it more of a solitary activity? For me, it's more of a solitary activity. But it's also like a game, and so it's kind of fun in a weird way. I don't know, my brain works strangely. I guess that's not surprising, but it's like, you know... Well, for one thing, I need things to get out of my head. This is maybe the more psychological thing, is sometimes... Like, as well as that past documentation stuff, which I didn't even realize I was going to talk about, my brain just sometimes put things out there and I'm like, where did that come from? So sometimes maybe I don't know why I make videos. Maybe it's my brain just being like, hey, here's a thing, bang. But as well as that, there is a self-expression thing, which probably also goes back to the situation I'm living in, because, you know, the kid who had to be quiet, who had to not be demanding because the disabled kid needs the attention more, and, you know, you keep all this stuff in and your needs are not met, so there's probably some glass child stuff in there. And so there's so much I've kept inside, and there's not enough room for it to stay. So sometimes things will just go around in my head, around and around and around, and the only time it stops is when I get it out. And maybe that's another part of the whole diary keeping thing, but because I keep scrunching it, it doesn't feel like it's really out until it's out. And it's on the internet, and other people have seen it, so now it's out and I can't take it back. So there's like the psychological thing of like venting that pressure in my head, just getting it out there. And, you know, not giving a fuck what any of these people think. And yeah, it's a solitary game thing. I am intellectually aware that other people exist and are watching it, but in terms of my emotional experience, I guess, is that the right word? I'm not sure, but in terms of like what I'm experiencing, it's not like a conscious socialization thing. It's like, here come all these game prompts. I hope that makes sense. Like, what do I get out of it? It also passes the time, and because life has no purpose and I'm too squeamish to exit it, and especially I'm doing better now, so I don't feel a need to exit at just yet. If the migraines hadn't stopped, it might be a different story, but I'm doing better for now, cross fingers. Touch wood, do whatever superstitious thing you like, sacrifice a goat for me. Yeah, why was I sacrificing a goat? Help! Okay. Because I exist. For now. I have to pass the time between now and death somehow, right? I'm not like, what do you want me to do? Just because I've been labeled schizoid. Do you just want me to sit around and do nothing all day? Like, literally nothing? What do other schizoids do? They don't sit around doing nothing. That's more like catatonic depression or something. You know? No. So, yeah, I hope that answers that one. And then the last one was this one. Oh, this one's so much bigger than the others. How do I care enough to post this video? I think I kind of covered that. It's like something to do. And just because it's video, you guys are freaking out like it's something wild. I mean, what do you do to pass the time? Do you play video games? I can't play first-person shooters because I feel ill. Which has happened live. I haven't thrown up, but you've seen me getting like super ill and being like, I can't keep playing this. So that's one less option for me. I do have other hobbies that I cycle between because it's hard for me to stay interested in one thing for any amount of time. I've realized I have to keep cycling hobbies to keep them fresh. And so, like, you know, I'll do a couple hours of art here, I'll do a couple hours of music there, I'll do a couple hours of making videos for YouTube, and it all passes the time. I've also in the past done things like knitting, crafty shit, bonsai. Sometimes I will even leave the house for reasons other than dog walking or medical appointments. I mean, how do you care enough to leave this comment? Isn't leaving a comment for me a social activity? Because if you were really trying not to be social, why would you be watching my stuff at all? Why would you be curious about any of this? Why would you, like this other person, you know, they have the energy to leave this comment? We all have different things that we do. I don't often leave comments on YouTube videos because I don't want to deal with people's replies. I do sometimes, but yeah, no, people's arguments on YouTube are annoying. If it's my own channel, you know, I can choose how to respond. I can delete the comments. If I really get annoyed, I can just block them. I have more control on my own channel. Commenting on other people's stuff, it depends on my mood, depends on the subject matter, and I don't do it very often. So, you know, we have different thresholds, different ways of passing the time, different ways of accidentally socializing. Obviously have some kind of interest or you wouldn't be making this video. I think I've covered that roundabout in this rambling. How you are capable, what do you do to get interested in something? This whole thing about the idea of being interested in something, it's always fascinating when schizoids comment on my videos because clearly you guys are interested in schizoid. That's why you keep making me make more videos when I have clearly stated in the past that I'm not a schizoid YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber who just happens to talk about my life and happen to be schizoid. I'm not trying to be the female schizoid angst as some of you have tried to label me. It's just, I made this first schizoid video and then people keep coming back for more and it's like, well, I can't stop talking about my life and I can't stop being schizoid, so it keeps coming up. And then my audience, you know, if I wanted to get successful on YouTube, I would probably double down on the schizoid stuff, but I'm just like, God, how boring to just do nothing but make schizoid videos. Nothing but videos on one subject. I can't do it. I don't have that interest. I think I mentioned in a video recently about, like, you know, how I can't match Oh, was it in the live stream how I can't match autistic people for the sustained obsessive interest in things? No. Even when I'm on YouTube, like, you just look at my content and how chaotic it is. I can't stick to one thing. I think one of the things about video is at least I can make videos about different things. So even if I can't maintain interest in constantly talking about schizoid, I can jump between different things. I can make a video about a book. I can make a video about gaming. I can make a video about bonsai. I can make shitpost videos. And the only thing that's consistent, apart from me appearing or me being involved somehow, is the video format. But I'm actually doing a lot of different things. This is like, when I was trying to choose a uni course and all that, when I was trying to, when you're in high school and they're trying to convince you to take on careers, I think that's why I ended up in a creative field, because at least in the creative field you can explore lots of different things. Like, I had such a huge list of possible careers, but I'm not Doctor Who. I don't have thousands of years to do every kind of, occupation, to try every single thing. I also didn't have a realistic idea of what every single thing was. But, I had a list of things that I was kind of like, I could do this, I could do that. Nothing grabbed me the way it does other people who can just make one thing their whole career. I can't do it. Yeah, and I don't know, like, so me being interested, I have a lot of interests, but they're very mild and fleeting, and I do get bored. So I'm not able to hold on to interest. So, like, this whole assumption that I'm so interested in making videos, YouTube is one of the things that I'm able to do more consistently than some of the other stuff, but it's not enough. I'm like trying to talk with my hands and you can't even see it. It's not enough of an interest for me to, like, properly dedicate myself to it. Like, I've watched some of the tips on how to be a better YouTuber, and then I promptly ignore everything they tell me, like, niche down, do this, do that, have good thumbnails. I'm just like, mate, I don't care enough. That's why I'm never gonna have any proper career or make any proper money anywhere, because I just don't give a shit. So, like, yeah, I've got interests, but maybe they're not as strong as you think. And then, like, you guys who just keep coming back to watch my schizoid videos, clearly you guys have an interest in schizoid, but you're in denial, like, I have no interest in anything you're saying. And it's like, but you do. You have an interest in schizoid. You have an interest in my opinions on schizoid and my lived experience. What an annoying term, but, you know what I mean. So you guys are interested in stuff. You just, I don't know, maybe you're a little bit too interested in schizoid and you're not doing enough to change, like that video I made the other day about how if you keep doing the same shit, your life is not going to change. So, like, I don't know, maybe you can take your interest in trying to figure out how to overcome schizoid stuff to help you actually overcome it in some way. I don't know, like I said in the other thing, just talk to an inanimate camera. You don't have to post it on YouTube like I do. I mean, I suppose some people are anxious about the comments they might get. I don't care, because I guess I have a little bit more of that, appears indifference to praise or criticism of others. I probably have that a little bit more than some people. Like, obviously I don't want negative consequences where my life could be threatened, but if people are gonna talk shit about me online, I don't care. Sometimes it's actually funny to Google myself and see what some of the schizoids are saying. One of them was like, she's a little bit too extroverted, which is hilarious, being called an extrovert. I know I might seem it on camera, but, like, I have a friend who's an extrovert and I got nothing on that. There's actually been times where, like, she's been the one to go up to the shop assistant and ask them something for me because I just was not in the mental state to deal with that shit. Get yourself an extroverted friend, by the way. If you want to try and get out more, you just get one to adopt you. Then you don't even have to do anything. They'll do everything. You just have to sort of occasionally socialize. And if they understand that you're not a socializing person, like this, my best friend and extrovert who adopted me, I see her maybe like 3 or 4 times a year. We don't even talk that much online, So, like, because they're extroverts, they're busy. And if they understand you, they won't bother you too much. But, every now and then you'll hang out and it won't be too much it'll be just enough. And then you can just recharge for the next few months. You got to find the right extrovert, but once you find him, it's handy. It's handy to have an extrovert on your side. And, people who have actual feelings, because sometimes I don't know that I need support, and it's helpful to have people come along and be like, hey, I'm going to give you support. And then I'm like, oh shit, I probably did need that. Yeah, anyway, no, that whole thing about calling me an extrovert. I have come a long way. That's another thing, is I'm older than I think some of these people realize. And one thing with personality disorders is just the passage of time can help. And if you do small things over a long period of time, you can lessen the impact of personality disorders gradually. I can't remember where I read it, but I think there is a thing that, personality disorders do or can decrease in severity as time goes on. And I think I'm going through that because I'm putting in the effort. And if you guys don't put in the effort, you're gonna stay severely schizoid forever. And if that works for you, that's fine. But if you have comorbid depression, or if you do experience loneliness, as I've said previously, you've got to change something, or you're never going to get there. Just small changes. That's what I've done, small changes. Compare this to my very first bonsai video. It's not the first video I posted on YouTube, but it's the first, probably the earliest video I've recorded that exists on. I'm not sure. There might be some really old dance videos, but that's not the same thing. Yeah. I can talk more now, and I can seem more animated and less anyway, what do you do to get interested in something, anything? You could, most of the things that I'm interested in are mild interests, or if something is novel and new, I might do a deep dive and get to a certain point where I'm like, okay, shit, I don't care anymore. There's nothing that I'm consistently super interested in, but it depends. If I haven't revisited a topic in a while, sometimes my brain will be like, oh yeah, that! And it'll be do another little deep dive, but then it takes a while to come back to it again. So I think some of you, maybe when you ask these kinds of questions, and what was there, that other one, what do you get out of this kind of thing as well. No, actually, I think it's mainly this. The ones like you who are like, how do I get interested in things? How do I feel things or whatever? And I think maybe I should have put that one in. There was another comment I didn't reply to that had something about how do you express feelings or whatever. Some of you asking these things, I think you've internalized the schizoid label a bit too much, and you're overthinking it, and you're not looking at what are you currently doing. For example, you are currently watching videos on schizoid because you have some kind of curiosity, and maybe you have a sense that you are struggling and you're looking for a way out, and you're maybe looking at my example. One person, that one who called me an extrovert, I think it was on Reddit or something, I can't even remember. Because I googled it, and Google would bring up Reddit, wouldn't it? I don't really use Reddit much unless Google is showing me something there. And I think they said a little bit too extroverted, but inspiring. So I don't know if I'm inspiring some of these schizoids to change, or give you hope that you can change, but maybe you're in denial that that's why you're watching me. I don't know, you got to do a lot of internal work, maybe get some therapy to help you with it, although I know how hard it is, because it took me so long to find a therapist that I could tolerate, and even then, I still think a lot of the work is just me figuring out stuff for myself, and then going to her, and her being like, yes, that's a good thing. And then occasionally, because she's reading my diaries, if there's something big going on in my life, she'll give me a few things, and I'll think about it later, and maybe eventually come around to it, even if I don't at the time that she says something. It's hard. I'm 37, okay? I've been around a while. I know some of you are older than me, but there's some of you who are younger than me. And, because here's another thing. If you were diagnosed schizoid early, you might have some of this subconscious defeated perspective, whereas I was only diagnosed with depression early, and I thought if I worked at it, I would not feel depressed, and depression is the bigger issue for me than schizoid. Schizoid probably causes or contributes somewhat to the depression in like weird subconscious ways. But I don't feel like schizoid itself is a problem for me because I like not being around people. I think people suck. I think the world we live in sucks. But avoiding it all clearly hasn't worked for me. So I have to admit at some point that the schizoid habits are not helping the depression, and that's why it's the depression that's prompting me to try anything. And I don't know if that even answers this. How do you get interested? I don't know. Just try new things, see if you like them. If you don't, try another new thing. If you don't do anything, nothing is going to change for you. You won't get interested in anything. You kind of just have to like see what's out there. This is one of the weird things about me actually getting out into the world now, is there's so much that I didn't even know was a thing. Gosh, yeah, and like, you know, even basic things like working at Officeworks, right? I did design and technology in high school, and for the portfolio at the end of the year, it had to be A3. I just bought an A3 folder and did it like a scrapbook and put it all together by hand. But when I actually worked at Officeworks and found out they have A3 printers and all the rich kids in the area would come in and print theirs off in full color, I was like, oh, that's how they do it. No one told me this stuff. Maybe this comes with being a glass child. And, you know, being a glass child who's also a high achiever, so people just assumed I knew things. Like I was given extension mathematics work in primary school, and I didn't know, like, you know, they're like, add these letters together, and I'm like, but they're letters. How do you, and then you get to high school and find out that the letters represent numbers. No one told me that, they just assumed I knew it. And so a lot of my life has been like people just assuming I know things by magic. But you have to get out there to find out things. And like, you know, I grew up before internet as well, so that also made it harder to even know what's out there. But like, you can look things up on the internet. You don't even need to leave the house. Just try and find out new things that exist. Stop constantly Googling schizoid and go and find out other things, and maybe something in there will be interesting. More interesting than constantly watching schizoid content and constantly asking me about it. Anyway, that was a long ramble and a bit of ranting. I hope that helps, and I hope that kind of makes sense. Why do I make videos? I don't know, it just works for me. Why are you commenting on my videos? Why are you watching schizoid content? Why are you watching my schizoid content specifically? Why did you get to the end of this video? Are you looking for something? Are you in denial of something that you're looking for? Maybe focus on that and see if that can lead you somewhere interesting. And stop harassing me about it. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're going to find interesting. But, you know, I know I'm kind of being like sassy. No shade to this person, because I think they're actually trying to, you know, do something with their lives. But like, you know, this is funny. They're saying, sorry if I come off as cold or cynical. I don't mean to. Me too. I don't mean to come off as cold or cynical or like mocking or whatever. It's just like my brain getting carried away, and the like YouTube version of me being like, which is not how I am. Most of the time I'm actually very quiet. I don't really do much. If I'm singing, I'll be noisy, but actually no, I haven't been quiet lately because, you know, Taco Tuesday. I can't believe he did an actual Taco Tuesday. And then I posted some story on Instagram, and you know, they let you pick songs, and so I picked If Only I Had a Brain to go with my taco post, and now I've had that in my head. So I haven't been completely quiet. I've been, you know, when I've been walking to the kitchen or going outside with Triton, I've been singing da 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 da. And what is it? Today's Thursday, and this is still... That was Tuesday. No, it was Wednesday. It was yesterday. I don't even know what time it is, because Americans are in the past. So for me, it was Wednesday, but yeah, no, and that song is stuck in my head still. And I've tried to replace it with Pokemon music, like the Pokemon bicycle music, which I haven't actually heard in ages, but my brain is telling me it's like do 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 do. I tried to replace it with that, but then my brain keeps going da 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 da. But when there isn't something stuck in my head, I will just be quite quiet. I might talk to the dog, but otherwise I'm just like sitting around. And yeah, if I don't make videos and I'm not going out in the world, sometimes I just like, it's like I almost forget how, like, it takes me a little bit of effort to get back into talking. So yeah, people, it's funny the perceptions people have of me based on what I've posted online. You don't see what I'm like when I'm not online, when I'm having those quiet moments, because they're quiet moments. Logic. Anyway, before I hurt myself. Oh wow, it's time to go to bed. Bye.